When we finally got permission, we decided we'd build a family home for life. And we spared nothing. We employed the best architects, builders, engineers, and everybody to do a quality home as good as we could afford at the time. Work commenced in April 1989, and it completed 1 year later in April 1990. And we moved in here in the middle of April 1990 with 5 small children, my wife Frida and I, and the house was wonderful and beautiful. Everything about it was as nice as we expected. And it remained that way for 7 years. And then we noticed there were cracks appearing outside the house, which was of some concern. And we called back the builder and the architect and the engineers to look at it and give an opinion. And they did, and they said, it's no more than settling cracks, which was very pleasing to us. And they advised that just paint over them and close them and it would be fine. 2 years later, these cracks opened and became much wider. So we recalled these experts again, and they advised that we'll open the cracks and then replaster the cracks. And the tradesman who was doing that did as directed, but said to us, I don't believe this is the problem. I believe the problem is more sinister, but I have to do what I'm advised to do. And he completed that. And things remained so until 2007. And then we were advised by experts who had been through this to employ a company in the UK doing research work into building material. And they come over and they did, but they charged the king's ransom, and the report was worthless. And then we didn't know what to do for 5 more years. And then a visitor called to see me one Saturday morning, and he said, well, what's the matter with what's the problem with your home? I said, we don't know. We've gone through extraordinary means to try and find out what's wrong. We don't know. There's ingress of dampness. The house is cold. It's impossible to heat. The clothes are damp in the wardrobes. The carpet is damp. And we're still at a loss to find out why all this is happening. We did consult with our architect previously, and he suggested that we replace the roof. We'll replace the roof with fiberglass, the whole roof, which again costs an awful lot of money, nearly 100,000. And we thought, now at least we have a home. The cracks continued and became more diffuse and wider, and the renders began to lift. The fiberglass roof did make a difference for some time, and we thought that has resolved the problem. But what was happening was the walls were expanding, and there was a divide in the fiberglass and the wall, so further dampness started to ingress, and water started to actually come in through the ceiling. We only discovered the real problem in 2012. But then we contacted Roadstone, and we made it quite clear that we have grave suspicions about the material supplied to us to build our home. And they were quite cooperative, and they sent out their chief manager from the Munster region, quite helpful to ascertain what was going on. He arranged for a builder to come out and take out samples. And he took out 16 samples of 8 blocks, each sample, and replaced them with new blocks. These were analysed by both parties. Ours came back positive for pyrite, but Roadstone said their samples were perfect. What we have analysed from the samples taken is perfect. It contains no material that could affect what has happened to your home. The samples we examined came back strongly positive for pyrite and other abnormal materials. That remained so with to and fro until 2019. So the managing director of Roadstone sent down 3 of his top experts and made it quite clear they were their top experts in the company. And they came down on the 2nd of May 2019 and we met. We had engineers, architects, builders, and other people expert in the field. They had their 3 experts and they began to present to us what was suitable for them, that they were showing us. Well, they had done all these studies which proved to them that what they gave us was perfect. Halfway through the meeting, I had to object. It is my opinion that you're not being transparent, you're not being honest, and I would like to stop the meeting. And if you agree, we have 2 builders standing by that will take out 4 blocks at random at any part of the house. And my daughter, who was there, she picked a site and they took out 4 blocks, which were completely rotten. They were so bad that they could break up the blocks with their hands. And I asked them, take a piece of the block back to your back to head office and have it analysed again. And the comment was that this is the worst case we've seen of degeneration of the home. And they said, it will have to be resolved by Roadstone. This can't go on. They took some material with them, and then I asked, do you want to reconvene the meeting? And they said, no, we've seen enough. It's terrible. It will have to be resolved by Roadstone, and this matter will have to be sorted out. And they left. And a month later, I got a letter from the managing director stating the same thing. What we gave you was perfect, ignoring the findings of their 3 experts. And they've continued to ignore my correspondence since then, stating the same mantra, what we gave you was perfect. Oh, we spent at least 30,000 analysing. Then it cost about 100,000 to put the roof, to replace all the roof. It cost 7 more thousand to repair all the cracks, replace them and all that. They refused at all times, saying they offered that we take the blocks back, but they wouldn't give us the analysis, their analysis. We have ours done by a very reputable company. They have theirs done, and they state what we analysed is perfect. Now, when their own builder was taking out the blocks, he was a builder from Limerick, and each block he took out, and when he put it in and threw it in the wheelbarrow, he said to me, Pascal, how can you watch this? It dissolved into dust. Every one of them, right around the whole house. We took out a very large part of the concrete and replaced it with new render. And that remained for 2 years, and that dissolved again. The manager director in Tala, in Roadstone, he has corresponded with me at least 30 times. And it's the very same, what we gave you was perfect. Yet I asked him for the results of the analysis carried out, and he has refused. And continue to refuse to this day. The 3 experts admitted and said, this is the worst case we've seen, and that Roadstone will have to resolve this problem. You could break it up, like the very same as you take a fresh cutting of a solid turf from a bog. You could break it like that. So despite all the efforts to resolve it in a fair way with the suppliers of the material, who should have honoured this and should know that this shouldn't happen or couldn't happen, they still keep on with the same denial, which to me is nothing short of criminal denial. And I can't think of anything else. If any other company did this, there would be prosecutions, and there would be a responsibility of the state to rectify and correct this. And they keep on saying the same thing, despite the evidence proving that what was given to you was defective and dangerous. It's my home. I have to live someplace. And for now, we have to make do with what we have. I can tolerate cold and a lot more than my wife, and that's understandable. But we have, in the winters, our heating bill is astronomical from what it used to be. Trying to keep the place from falling down, literally, we have to keep heating on all the time. The mold, to prevent molds occurring in all the rooms, especially the bedrooms, is a continuous effort and a continuous expensive effort. So it is our home for now. But how long we have been advised by the engineers that it's not fit for habitation and that we should leave for safety and for our children's safety. It has gone so extreme. My youngest son is a doctor. He works in London. He's very reluctant to come home because he gets asthmatic attacks, which are very, very unpleasant. We all suffer some little symptoms of indicative of molds, and it is a constant problem. I guess I can only speculate the size. Money speaks. They're the third wealthiest company in the world in supplying building material. They cover the world. They can take this attitude by saying, what we gave you was perfect. Despite that, the three top engineers, technical engineers, saying in the presence of 11 witnesses, recorded, photographed, and still a month later, the director will come back and say, what we gave you was perfect. In the nicest, glossiest legal language you can be presented with, which is obviously not the language of the managing director, but the language of a high-profile legal firm. And this is what we find extraordinary, that they'll abuse the victims further. We are the victims of this. We have suffered enormously, continuously, and to replace a home today it is frighteningly expensive. The government have a responsibility to look after their people. The politicians have a responsibility to look after their people. The government have an act that they have to comply with that state what's supplied should be in keeping with the best standards and proper standards. They didn't do that. They have made no effort whatsoever to try and resolve this. Of course the government should resolve this. They have a duty of care. They cannot ignore that and say, what the Rothschild told us, what they gave you was perfect. Come down and walk around. All you need is a little hammer and open the render and take out all the dust you want. You don't have to be any kind of an expert to see that this is grossly unjust, that they allow this to go on. I couldn't see this happening in any other country.